Since the dawn of time, competition and sport has been at the heart of entertainment. Humanity will look at a rock and go, I wonder how far I could throw that. And then the neurons in our brains just go absolutely bonkers. But now that technology has evolved, there are a lot more people spending more time on their computers. Like you. Go touch grass, bozo. Anyway, even though we spend our time watching screens, our competitive nature still yearns for the throwing big rock far effect. Yeah, and thus esports was born. I want to dive into how a top VR game has created an amazingly elegant ranked environment. If you haven't guessed by now what game I'm talking about, you probably aren't subbed to me, so I have a crippling addiction to the block cutting da-da-da-da game, also known as Beat Saber. The Beat Saber modding community is insane. The modded maps are some of the most gorgeous experiences you can witness in VR. The creative freedom and customization is just limitless through mods and models, all made by the community. And then there is the ranked leaderboards, which are also 100% community made. Now, this system isn't entirely unique. You may have heard of a game called
Osu.
Osu is the most popular rhythm game, and I believe they first invented this ranking system. It consists of performance points, star ratings, and even the World Cup has a similar format. Now, I'm not dissing anyone for copying anybody, it just makes sense, because they're both rhythm games and this system has been proven to work, so it makes sense to keep things consistent. The basic premise of how scoring works is each ranked map gets moderated and given a star rating based on how difficult it is. Then you get awarded points based on the star rating and your accuracy. The math behind it is boring, so all you really need to know is better accuracy means better scores. And when you get to the really high accuracies, improving by even like 0.1% can get you a lot of score. Okay, so what's the maximum score? Well, that question is a little bit complicated. So we're gonna work our way up, and what better to start than at the bottom? When you first make an account, you're tied for last place with no ranked maps and a grand total of 0 PP. Oi. There is nothing funny about the scoring system being named PP, okay? Osu started it anyway. You play your first map, and let's just say you got a 230 PP play. That will immediately shoot you up like 400 placements, past all the people who have never played any ranked maps but have an account. Then, for example, your second play might be like 220 PP. But hold your horses. What's this little number? It's telling me my 220 is actually a 212.3. And while it might seem like you're getting cheated, trust me, this is needed for competitive play. What this does is level the playing field for all players, so that somebody who's played thousands of maps can be better compared to somebody who has only played like 300 maps, for example. Here is the formula for how quickly the weighting decreases. For example, if you had your third best play, n in this formula would be 3, and your score will be multiplied by 0.931 to give you your final score. Now, after you've played about 250 games, your bottom players will have pretty much 0% weight, meaning you are no longer guaranteed to gain anything from a bad play, and now the player will need to one-up themselves to gain anything at all. So jumping forward a little bit, at about 11,690 PP, now it's the money number. At 11,690 PP, you are now in the top 1,000 players. And out of 73,199 players on Score Saber, you are now the top 1.36% of players. But only after a few more global placements, and at a score of 12,210 PP, you are now in the top 1% of players, and would pass rank 731 global. You would have also passed me at that point. Now, once you hit about 14,748 PP, you will be a top 100 player, and one of the top 0.136% of Beat Saber players in the world. And then at 17,475 PP, this will put you in the top 10 of global players. And you will also be in the top 0.0136% of players. Then finally, at 19,910 PP, this will make you number 1. you will be the best Beat Saber player and have surpassed the current number one, Urmagish. Omergish. Yeah, that one insane tech player. Anyway, now that we've gone over everything to do with scores, we can finally answer what is the maximum PP score, right? Well, it's complicated. See, we know what a player has been able to achieve quite easily by just looking at the leaderboards, but that player can always get better scores, and it's going to be hard to find a final number. So let's just take a step back and instead let's take a page out of the speedrunners' books and understand how they find the theoretical limit to their respective game. A common way is to use what's called segmented runs. Segmented runs will take the best times of sections of gameplay from any amount of players and any amount of runs, splice them all together in a video editing software, and you have your final run. This is often referred to as the human limit, as all of these clips have actually been accomplished and anyone would be able to get the exact same final time, given the same RNG and button inputs. I think you can see where I'm going with this. What if we took the best players from all the top players and put them under one single profile? Assuming we had a player who had mastered all aspects of the game, speed, pick, accuracy, and stamina. And I will include overweighted maps just because there is usually a handful of overweighted maps at all times. Unless a reweight literally just happened, I wouldn't be able to predict how much each play would get nerfed. So if you want a final number without the overweight scores, just take off an arbitrary amount like 100 PP say, and that should be fine. Okay, here we go. I first got the top players from the top 5 players. I probably could have min-maxed it a little further by getting a couple good scores from more people outside the top 5, but I realized that I just don't have the time to search through that many people in hopes that I find a slightly better play. But as it turns out later on, I found out that a 660 play under this profile gets you a whopping 0.5 PP. So it really wouldn't change anything if I used a 661 instead of a 660, for example. But yeah, it was really funny to see how cracked the top 3 are at this game, and especially the combo of Omergish of Omergish on tech and Bitesy on speed. It literally creates this god tier skill set that is hilariously overpowered. And the result of this mega profile with all of the runs spliced together is 20,257.52 PP. We have managed to gain only 300 PP over the current number one. Well then. Honestly, I was expecting the combo of tech and speed would create this massive change. And yes, 300 PP is a lot, especially at that level of play where a 660 gets you close to nothing. But I can't help but feel a little defeated right now. I was expecting at least 1,000 up. However, there is one thing we can still do. See, the scoring system may feel logarithmic, which makes it really hard to improve the more you climb, but the amount of score you gain from accuracy increasing is exponential. It's very difficult to hold a high accuracy on high star maps. Even the top Score Saber accuracy players are only just barely able to maintain an average accuracy of high 97% on a high star map. The reason for this is because getting such a high accuracy requires so much more concentration, as you have to hit the dead center of every single block. But I feel it's my duty to take this to its conclusion. What if, and hear me out, what if all the top plays were 100% accuracy? Now, this is statistically impossible for any person to just do. Even on a low star map, 100% just doesn't happen, since you'd have to full swing straight through the center of every single block and do that thousands of times consecutively over the span of several minute-long songs. But it's not completely impossible. It can happen. It could happen. Whether it's by pure skill or complete luck, it does not matter. All that matters is that if it can happen, then that's still within the bounds of the answer to the question, what is the highest score in Beat Saber? So you know what that means? It's time for round 2 of Google Sheets, baby! Basically, I'm just taking these scores and seeing what PP each play would give me if the players played perfectly. I gotta say, entering the first map into the calculator and seeing an over 2000 PP play was so unbelievably satisfying. Even more satisfying than the sound of those like little oval magnets that everyone seemed to have when they were a kid. But the novelty wore off very, very quickly when I had 300 more songs to do this for. Anyway, while Past Me is currently furiously copy and pasting scores around in a 30-second time lapse that took me 2 hours of real time, I thought I'd just remind people that this took me a long time to get everything ready for this video, so if you have been enjoying so far, a like would be greatly appreciated. It means a lot to me and lets me know what kind of content people enjoy. Okay, now for the true limit of Beat Saber play. 78,965.44 pp. Holy, that's the thousands more I was looking for. This is the theoretical limit for score with the current maps that are available. The only way to beat this score would be if they released higher starred maps or changed how PP was calculated. It's not like we'll ever get close to this number. There is a maximum possible score. It exists and it's out there. Why didn't I think of using a bot to scrape this info? Just do it manually, it won't take too long. Ugh. God, my nose is so itchy.